What's going on, man? It's your boy, Jay Holley, and we are back with another episode of Unfiltered with Jesse Holley. Thank you. You are far too kind. You could have been anywhere in the world, but I am so glad that you are here with me. I am Jesse Holley, the sports talk equivalent of Braille. People feel me when I speak. You guys know what you got to do, man. Hit that like button, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff that you got to do, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend that where we're at. Mr. Fourth and Long on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Follow Fanatic Views, Unfiltered with the Clips page. Follow it all, do it all, man. Make me a part of your everyday life. If you're looking for something that's going to satisfy your sports need, you don't look no further. He is I and I am him. Don't play with your boy. You know what I'm saying? Join the gang. Do what you got to do. Listen, go and find a couple episodes, 3 episodes. Find 3. By the time you see this one, we'll have 65 of those things out for you. Go and find 3. Listen to 3. 15 minutes apiece. If you're not satisfied at the end of the 15 minutes, find 3 more. Find 3. Do whatever it is that you got to do to make sure that you are locked in. I get it because I'm not for everybody, and neither are you. So it's all good. It's all good. But you know how I like to get down. I like to give my motivation at the beginning because a lot of y'all not going to be here at the end, and that's okay. That's okay too. That's okay. But again, remember, watch those 3 episodes, 15 minutes apiece. If you don't like them, find 3 more of them things, man. I'm down here at Center Sneaker Store in Mockingbird Station. Come through, see my boy T get laced up from head to toe. They get you right. They get you right from head to toe, man. So come down here, check them out, and get yourself right. Summer's around the corner. Summer's around the corner. They got some fly stuff, and I was looking at some stuff when I shouldn't be looking at stuff in here, but I was still looking at stuff in here, man. All right, man. Let me get right to this. Because we got a lot. We got so much. We have so much that I have to kind of like make sure that I put the right stuff in there because I don't want this thing to be 2 hours long. Nobody wants to sit around 2 hours long, even though sometimes I do make some good stuff that's be 2 hours long. But I want to get it in. I want to hit it and quit it. You know what I'm saying? I want to get in there, hit the right spot, get up out that thing. I ain't gonna be in here. I ain't gonna be playing around with it all day long. Pause. All right, man. Let's get right to this motivation, man. And this is from Confucius. This is from Confucius by way of my old wide receiver coach, Gunnar Brewer, down there at Virginia Tech. He had what we call his freak facts. He puts his words of wisdom out because we are freaks, fresh receivers, exciting all crowds smoothly. That's what that means. So I don't say I'm a freak, but I'm a freak because it means that. But here's what Confucius said, and it's what Coach Brewer said. Said a man is great not because he hasn't failed. A man is great because failure hasn't stopped him. If you're going to do anything in life, and I do mean anything, you're going to fail. It's inevitable. Like no one has gone through life with a perfect record. Just Jesus. Like no one else is going through life with a perfect record. You're going to fail. You're going to have some hills, some bumps, some bruises, some setbacks, some detours, all those things. I talked about this ad nauseum over and over and over again. But it's not the failures. Like it's what you do after the failures. Because they're coming. They're on the way. Live long enough, do whatever it is that you're doing, relationship, work, workouts, business, anything. DIY, what is it? Do it yourself, DIY projects. DIY, do it yourself. Yeah, DIY projects, all that. You're going to fail. You're going to fail, but it's what you do after the failure. Do you get up, dust yourself off? Get up off the canvas, stand in 8 count, gather yourself, shake off the cobwebs, lock back in. I've told you guys this many times before. Be firm in the destination, be flexible on the journey. Whatever the end goal is the end goal. I want to be, put it in there, right? Insert whatever that goal is. Now, how to get there? Well, that can be 10 different ways to get there. And you may start out with one plan, but there's a reason why God gave you an eraser on a pencil. Because one plan, you may start that way, and sometimes you got to erase that and go another way, or go around this detour, or this actually road stops. And so don't let failures be the determining factor of who you are. Like failure shouldn't be your last name. They shouldn't be able to put a period on failure in your name. That shouldn't be in the same conversation, because there should be a continuation after the failure. That makes the greatness. That is the greatness of those that we all look at. You know, we sometimes cherish and look at actors and actresses and athletes of all different sports. There's a lot of failure that goes into it. But boy, when they win, when your team wins, those failures don't matter. Even at the end of a game, you can look through a game. You can look through a game. And I can show you failure after failure after failure after failure that did not hold a team back from going to win the football game. They happen. That's what I love about football. What I love about sports, because you're able to work through those things and still come out victorious. All right, man, let's jump right into this thing. It's so much. God, it's so much, man. And I'm so thankful that you guys are here with me. Retirement news just came out. Leighton Vander Esch, the Cowboys middle linebacker, he is retiring. And it's a sad retirement because it's a forced retirement. Leighton Vander Esch suffered another neck injury during this year against the 49ers and missed the end of the rest of the season. And the Cowboys were going to medically release him. He had the cervical neck situation. This is the same thing. He had a neck issue in college. And when you start talking about certain things, the longevity of it, when you start talking about necks and brains, like those things can have a long-term effect on your well-being. And I've always said this about the game of football. It's a couple things, but I've always said about the game of football is it's a 100% hurt business. It's not an if, it's a when. You will get hurt playing football. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Now, the degrees of which it happens, the severity in which it happens, that may vary. But if you are a player, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get injured. And while this is a beautiful game that I love, football has done so much for me and so many others that watch this, that participated in this. The thing about the game, though, is football, the game itself, it gives you so much, but it also takes more than you're willing to give. Football takes a lot, and it takes a lot from you. And in this situation, unfortunately, with Leighton Vander Esch, this being his third neck injury since 2016. He had one in October 2016, November 2019, October again 2023, and he had another neck injury when he was in college. I mean, now we're flirting with the possibility of this having a much greater impact on his well-being. But, you know, shout out to Leighton Vander Esch, and I pray that the next portion and the next stage of his journey, that is one that is healthy, first and foremost, but he finds his way. He finds his way, and he left. One of the things he left on he wrote a letter to the fans, and he talked about the body just wouldn't cooperate. And there's so much trauma that you can only take in this game. Playing middle linebacker, that's trauma every single down. And a lot of fans don't understand what it takes to get to Sunday. There's a lot. And I know what you're going to say. I get it. You chose to do this, for sure. Absolutely. It is a choice. But again, there's not a choice to get hurt. I can promise you Leighton didn't want to have the neck injuries. Ryan Shazier didn't want to have the neck injuries. Players don't want to have CTE or concussions or broken legs or torn ACL. Nobody wants to have that. It's a casualty of the game, but no one wants to have that. We love this game, and this is a game that does not love you back. Gives a lot, but does not love you back. And that is the constant thing that you have to deal with. How do I get up every single day and to love something that does not love me back? And unfortunately, the end results are end results like these at times. Many of us don't get a chance to walk away. a lot of times we're pushed away through injuries like this. So I pray for continued speedy recovery for Leighton, and whatever the next chapter has for him, I wish him nothing but the best. You were good to the game. The game was good to you, but the game took more away from you than you were willing to give, than you had to give. You didn't have any more to give. And so, not congrats, but I pray that your next journey is one that you can live with. That's a difficult part. It's to being pushed away from the game when you're not ready to go. And now you have to find where that next path is going to go. Another retirement. This is more on this is the privileged side. Okay. You have the unprivileged side, and then you have the privileged side. Aaron Donald, one of my all-time favorite players. I would always say, like, he was my MCM. If I had a man crush Monday in the National Football League, Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald to be 6'2" or whatever he was, undersized, 285, 90 pounds, and he was ripped. And I can say that because I know Aaron Donald's wife. Aaron Donald's wife was my wide receiver coach's daughter, so I've known her for 20 years. Long before she knew Aaron and long before they got married, but Aaron was my MCM, man. He was greatness personified. He was dominant in college at Pitt. He was ACC Defensive Player of the Year at Pitt. People thought, this guy's undersized, small, short arms. He can't be really inside. And all he did was say, screw y'all. Was drafted in the first round. Aaron Donald, 10 years in the National Football League. 10 years, he was a Pro Bowler. 8 times, he was first team All-Pro. 3 times, he was Defensive Player of the Year. Super Bowl champion, 111 career sacks from the interior defensive lineman position. I don't think you quite understand the insanity in that. Dudes who rush the passer every single down don't have 111 career sacks. To do it from the 1 and the 3 technique, and then as he got more and more into his career, they moved him all up and down the defensive line because the teams were double and triple teaming him. And to watch Aaron Donald play week in and week out, like, there are a ton of quarterbacks all across the league that rejoiced that Aaron Donald is retiring, but he goes down as one of the best. For sure, 5 years from now, first ballot. They could start etching his bust. Call who does the fitting for the jackets. I think it's Haggard's. Haggard's need to come in and just start fitting him now. He's for sure a first ballot Hall of Famer 5 years from now. And those that you don't know, you got to wait 5 years before you go to the National Football League. Before you go to the Hall of Fame. So kudos to Aaron Donald, man. And same thing for you. I pray that whatever that next journey is for you, because a lot of times, and he started his podcast. He and his wife are starting a podcast, right? More people in the podcast space. But yeah, he's starting a podcast. But that's the thing, is that people leave this game. Some are pushed out. Some like Aaron Donald get to walk out. And they leave with a bunch of money, some of them. But they don't leave with the next plan, because all they've known so long is football. But shout out to Aaron Donald, man. You were definitely one of the greatest to ever play this game. And there's debates. Depending on what era you came in, you might say that Aaron Donald's the best defensive player of all time. There's some that will say Reggie White's the best defensive player of all time. There's some that will say Lawrence Taylor. There's some that will say Dion. It depends on what era, where you from, what you like, what you don't like. But all I know is that Aaron Donald is in the conversation. You can't tell the history of the NFL from the defensive side of the ball and not mention Aaron Donald. Period. So whether it's Ray Lewis is your GOAT, or Dion is your GOAT, or Dick Butkus is your GOAT, or Mike Singletary is your GOAT, or whoever, like I said, Reggie White, or name a player, he's in that conversation. So kudos to and shout out to Aaron Donald, man, for prolific career. I don't like a 10-year span where, I forgot he was rookie of the year as well as being 3-time defensive player of the year. Like I said, in any accolade that he could kind of reach, he reached it. He led the league in sacks before. Like I said, 3-time defensive player of the year, rookie defensive player of the year. He did everything but win MVP. And there were some seasons where he was like, he might need to be in a conversation of MVP. That's how good and dominant he was. In another move, Tyron Smith, long time. He's another one. Tyron Smith's another one. When he decides to hang it up, he'll probably be, it's a march to Canton for him. But Tyron Smith was released by the Cowboys in a move that I thought that they should have done. I got nothing against Tyron Smith. Love Tyron Smith. Was teammates with Tyron Smith. Good dude. I thought Tyron body, it began to fail him. Right? When you're not able to play games, and even though Tyron, when he was playing, he played well. But I think sometimes people fail to realize what it takes to get to that point. Like Tyron couldn't practice. There had to be a lot from the medical staff. There had to be a lot of adjustments to get Tyron to Sunday. And then on top of that, with all of that, he was still going to miss anywhere between 4 to 6 games a season. And maybe that doesn't mean a lot to most. But I thought the one thing that I do agree with how Bill Belichick in New England kind of does their business is it's better. They always said it's better to let a guy go a year before he's out of his prime than a year after. Like, I think for Tyron, it was time to go. I think it was time for him to go. And he signed with the New York Jets, so he wasn't unemployed very long. He goes with the Jets. I guess if you can't beat him, join him, right? Aaron Rodgers couldn't beat Aaron Rodgers in his career, so he'll go and join Aaron Rodgers and be his blind side blocking for what he has to do in New York. Now, I don't know how his body's going to hold up in New York. Again, you're talking about a different metal. And this is always the thing that people sometimes don't realize as well. Now, it could go both ways. He can get to New York and they can probably have something that the Cowboys didn't have. A thought process, a technique, a procedure, something that gets him right or gets him through. Or it can be the opposite. It could be that they don't know his body like Britt Brown and Jim Maurer did and Greg did here at the Cowboys. And so they're missing certain things that he normally would have to get himself ready for Sunday that they're not accustomed to seeing or not accustomed to doing. So there's both sides of the ledger, right? That every team has their own little unique methods and ways of how they get their guys going. And it may work for Tyron or it may be a complete disaster. But for Tyron's sake, and this is the man, I wish him nothing but the best. I wish that he goes to New York and have all the success that he could ever want. Whether that be a Super Bowl, whatever it is, I do wish him personal success in the next junction of his life. Keeping it on the Cowboys term, one of the biggest things that the Cowboys and Cowboy fans have really been upset with has been free agency. It's been the Cowboys. You know what? And let me stop and pause for a second. Let me stop and pause for a second when it comes to that, because I haven't had an opportunity to talk during the real motion of free agency. And Cowboy fans, you have the right to be upset. You have the right to be upset. I'm not telling you that you don't. Be angry, cuss, fuss, gripe, moan, do all of that. Rightfully so. But when you're done, when you've transitioned out of those emotions and you've allowed yourself to become level-headed, I want you to take a moment and take off your fan hat. Take it off. I'm not saying throw it away. Don't burn it. That's a dumb thing. Any of you who burn jerseys and memorabilia and stuff like that are idiots to me, because you paid for it. You just burnt your money. I don't give a damn how mad you get. Y'all smashing TVs and burning jerseys and hats and all that. Idiot, you pay for it. That $100 bill just now going down the drain. But for a moment, take off your hat. I don't mean to insult y'all, but take off your fandom hat. pick up your businessman fitted or your businessman snapback and just think for a second. What's happening? And I get it. The Green Bay loss has gotten people furious. But we all thought they were going to lose the next week anyway. I just want to put that out there. Most of you, if you're being honest with yourself, most of you didn't have the Cowboys getting past the Niners next week. You didn't. You didn't. You didn't. You hoped. You thought, well, this has got to be our chance. And it would have ended next week anyway. But I get why you're upset at Green Bay. You should be. But when you put that business hat on, I want you to sit in a place and I want you to think like Jerry Jones. Because that's who you guys are upset at. The Joneses. This is who you want to cuss. This is who you want to punch. This is who you want to tar and feather. Nothing that they've done this offseason is off-brand of what they've done the last 10, 15 years. With the exception of Brandon Carr. Right? And that wasn't a bad signing. Like, people try to make it like Brandon Carr played every game. Brandon Carr played in every single game that he was a Cowboy. Didn't miss one. Was a good player. They played him wrong. You got a guy to come in and play one style of football, and then he gets here and you change up the style of football that he was successful playing. That 2 and 2 don't make 4. That don't make no sense. But while you have that business hat on, understand the thought process for Jerry Jones. And I am going to give them some credit. I am. Because despite them diving into the day one free agency and signing these prolific players, all the guys and people that you want them to sign at whatever position, Cowboys put damn good rosters out. Every year we get to September, we get to August, and we start saying, man for man, roster for roster. Cowboys didn't dive into free agency last year. They wasn't day one free agency owners. They had a top 3 roster last year. Maybe you take Baltimore. Maybe you take Buffalo as an overall roster. Ain't too many more you take other than the Cowboys roster. So they put good rosters out. They won 36 games in the last 3 years, 12 games apiece. It's the most wins by any team in the last 3 years. So they put a team good enough to go out there and do what they're supposed to do without diving into day one free agency. Got to give them credit. But when you sit there, and you can even cross your legs when you got your business hat on, and think of the mind of Jerry Jones, and ask yourself, why would I change what I do when the ultimate goal as a businessman is to make money? Put that fandom hat back down on the table. Do not pick that fandom hat up. We are businessmen and women. We are businessmen and women. And at the end of the day, what I want as a businessman and or woman is that my bottom dollar is big. No. Don't tell me but Jess, put the fandom hat down. You see, because you guys, you keep wanting Jerry to be this football mind. And he keeps telling you, I'm a businessman. Everything about what he does is business. You want real football people. And he's telling you he's a real businessman. I'm a businessman when it comes to marketing. I'm a businessman when it comes to making money. And the last time that we checked the business books in regards to Jerry Jones, to steal a term from my boy Antonio Brown, business is booming. Business is booming. Don't put that fan hat back on. No, keep the businessman hat on. Because you're wanting a businessman to think like a fan. That's where you're coming up short. He's not a fan. He's a businessman. His son's a businessman. The Cowboys just so happen to be the family business. And the part that you're missing, and I get it, but don't pick that fandom hat up. Keep your business hat on. The Cowboys in the last 22 years have led the league in attendance, and it ain't even close. The Cowboys did $1.2 billion just last year, and the opportunity to have revenue, 1.2. The Cowboys, they did 100 TV shows. The NFL dominated the conversation. You know who was in the top 5? 3 times. Now this is NBA Finals. This is World Series. This is March Madness. This is whatever you want. Monday Night Raw. This is Oscars. This is whatever you want to. I don't even know what is it. I don't care what the event is. Cowboys, 3 of the top 5 spots were Cowboy football games. So when you're saying to Jerry, why aren't you doing anything different? You're saying the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And Jerry says, exactly. The results is crazy bread. When Jerry does a toast at the table, he says, I want to make a toast. And he says, I want your life and my life to be like Italian bread, long with a lot of dough in the middle. That's what Jerry says. See, you keep putting on that fan hat and wanting him to do the things that fans want to be done. And to sign these guys and ultimately go and win me a championship. And Jerry's saying, my championship looks a little bit different than yours. Now, if I just so happen to win a championship, great. Fantastic. It's a cherry on top. But boy, I sure do like when that Forbes list come out every single year. And they go, what is the most wealthiest franchise in all of sports on any corner of the globe? And he says, howdy, folks. It's these Dallas Cowboys. So Jerry can care less about all that stuff that y'all upset about. Because at the end of the fiscal year, he ain't in the black. He's in the green. And that's all that matters to a businessman. Now, you can take your business hat off and feel free to snug in and put that fan hat back on. Because as angry as you are right now, 99.99999% of you will be right back in your man cave, will be right back to buying merchandise, will be right back to finding a way to get to AT&T Stadium, will be right back to having your Sunday set to when the Cowboys play. That ain't going to change. And some of it is because you're crazy. You're the crazy one. Not Jerry. You're the one expecting a different result. You're the one that year in and year out, you keep expecting something different. Unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that when you look up the definition of insanity, your face is there as a Cowboy fan. Because this is the part of the game. And some of y'all, it's generational. Some of you, your daddy's daddy was a Cowboy fan. And your great-granddaddy sat on his knee and watched Cowboy games. And your granddaddy sat on his knee and watched Cowboy games. And your daddy sat on your granddaddy's knee and watched Cowboy games. And he did the same thing to you. Don't blame Jerry. He just provides a product. Some of y'all need to blame y'all daddies for ushering you into this generational curse. Because a lot of y'all are 30 plus. And it's been 30 years since the Cowboys have had true significance in the league and in regards to championships. So a lot of y'all are grown-ups with the option to choose a different team. You opt not to. So you become a part of the circus. Hope you enjoy. All right, now that I'm off that, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was due $5 million today as a roster bonus. The Cowboys, this is the part that always gets this is the part, again, we're talking about business here. Dak Prescott, he gets that turned into a signing bonus. This is the way the Cowboys can maneuver money. And I know what you're saying. Why didn't you do this before? You would have had some more money. You could have bought some of your free agents. Again, you keep putting the fan hat on. Jerry's not interested in buying free agents. It's not what they do. Steven and Jerry, they're not interested in that. They aren't. It's not. They're not. They could easily do it. A lot of these contracts that you see have switches that they can hit and they can pass things on down the road. They added 2 more voided years to the back of Dak Prescott's contract. If they wanted to get a contract done with Dak Prescott, they would have got it. They know the numbers. The numbers ain't new. Todd France told them what they're looking for. If they wanted to get a deal done, they would have got the deal done, and they would have made that contract. They would have gave Dak Prescott a lower salary base this year, and they would have freed up a bunch of money. And they could have went butt naked, deep sea diving in day one free agency. They don't want to. Now, the thing that we aren't talking about, which I think is going to be a major factor, is 2 things. One, because you aren't diving into free agency, at least the first kind of day or 2 of it, that first top tier, the A and B tier, top 2 tiers, is now you're looking at your draft having to be perfect. And we know the draft is an absolute gamble every single year. It's a 50-50 gamble. Now, I don't care who the player is. Because for every Peyton Manning, there's a Ryan Leaf. For every Tom Brady, there's a Jamarcus Russell. For every for every Ed McCaffrey, for every Emmitt Smith, there's a Ricky Williams. It's a 50-50 crapshoot because you have some can't miss projects. Can't miss. He is going to be the next best thing, and he isn't. And that's in the first round. That's in the second round. That's in the third round. But we also seen guys like Mr. Irrelevant. We've seen Tom Brady. We've seen guys who were in the back part of the draft find themselves into a position where they turned their situation and became great players. Some of them even Hall of Fame players. But the thing that the Cowboys have set themselves up for is needing to have to be perfect in the draft. And if you look at what happened last year, that's a tough thing. Like the Cowboys got basically, feel how you feel about Mozzie Smith, got nothing from their draft class last year. Nothing. Mozzie, he played some. Schoonmaker, Eric Scott, no, nothing from their draft class. So now what the pressure is now is because here's how this works. Your plan is to go and draft. And your hope is those guys in the first and second round and third round, those are supposed to be impact players. I'm not saying that they have to be Aaron Donald, right? And go to a Pro Bowl, first team All-Pro your first year. But those guys are supposed to be impactful players. They're supposed to be guys who are in the rotation, starters that give you meaningful minutes. And then now you say after your first year, you're going to take that next jump because you got the reps, you have the experience, you played well, and now you take the next jump in year two. And now you go from being a rookie to a second-year player, taking that jump. And now we inserted you into our plans. And now I don't have to go and search all across the board because I got a D tackle. Mozzie Smith took the step. And now next year will be a great leap. But because that draft class this year was so bad, you've basically found yourself at ground zero again. So now Mozzie, Luke, and others, they kind of are almost on the same plane of the new draft class that'll be coming in a month. And you don't have the luxury of ushering in a new draft class with some players who have taken the next step. Now, we don't know what the future holds. Maybe Mozzie turns it around. But as of today, you have to ask yourself the question, do I have to go find another defensive tackle in the draft? And so now the Cowboys are almost forced into hitting on every draft pick. Overshown got hurt last year. There was a promise to that, but that got hurt. He got hurt. No fault to his own. He didn't want the injury. They didn't want the injury, but it happens. Football's a 100% hurt business. So now you got to hope that he shows up. You sign Eric Kendricks, so you got some pieces in there, but now you've put so much pressure on drafting this year because you're like, these guys got to hit. Because what we can't have is we can't have back-to-back years where our impact draft picks, your first, second, third round draft picks, are not impactful. And that's the big portion of the window is you look for draft classes to take steps, and now I can just insert pieces. See, this is why y'all want them to go out and sign so many off-season, free agent pieces because the draft picks ain't hitting on nothing. If your draft picks are hitting, now I can come into the draft without these glaring major needs, and I can find developmental projects. I can maneuver in the draft. I can say, you know what? At 24, we don't really have a need so much. Maybe I can trade back, pick up more assets, gain more players, have more possibilities to have guys grow through our program. So those type of things that are happening. But the Cowboys find themselves in a very, very peculiar situation because now they have to have another draft class. Got to hit. You got to kind of go 4 for 4. You got to have your first, second, third, fourth round pick all be impactful players. Because if you're not going to dive into free agency, you still have to build a roster. And even the guys that you bring in now that are veterans, but these guys are not on their last leg. They're a little bit washed. They're not premium. They're not premium players. And so that's what you found yourself. But to the Cowboys' credit, come August, they put together some damn good rosters. I mean, you go back over time and just look at them. Like, look at the Cowboys. They have not been a team that has dove into the free agency market and they put in top offenses. Defensively, same thing. They led the league in sacks the last couple of years, turnovers the year before last. They put players out there, and they developed players. Deron Bland was a guy who we didn't think was going to lead the league in interceptions. Broke a record, NFL history. I mean, Dak is still a 4th-round draft pick. So there's a lot going on with that, man. To continue to go around the football league, Justin Fields. This is an interesting one. Justin Fields was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, Jess. Here we go. Because this is an interesting thing. Let me be very clear when I say this. I'm out on Justin Fields. Justin Fields is getting ready to find himself in a situation. And guess what? Y'all will be able to pull this back up later on. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm looking at Justin Fields and I'm saying to myself, when major assets were not given up for you, there is no real pressure to truly develop you. If a first-round pick was given up for you, 2 second-round picks were given up for you, some real assets were given up for you, then that next team is kind of almost forced to make it work. Justin Fields is finding himself in a situation now where you might be getting passed around. And I like the place that you landed. The Bears said they were going to do right by you, and they were a list of teams that they had, and you chose Pittsburgh, and so they made it work with Pittsburgh. But I'm out on Justin Fields. I don't see what other people are seeing. I don't see the upside in Justin Fields. I know that he has athletic ability, but if you can't pass this football, if you can't pass the football, and you're not in the right system that's going to cultivate your running ability, a la the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, then you become lost in the sauce. And I just don't think I'm not a believer of Justin Fields. I'm just not the person, the player. I don't know him as a man, so I'm not attacking his character. But as a player, I think it's finito for him. But not to be a hypocrite, I do think going to Pittsburgh will help. I think learning behind Russell Wilson or learning with Russell Wilson gives you a different perspective. I do think Mike Tomlin, and he said it on countless occasions, he goes, I run to coaching. I run to coaching. Coaching is in my DNA. So he looks at these projects and he goes, I want to coach that. And he always talks about he goes, it's lazy for a coach to say that a player can't learn. Every player can learn. Are you willing to coach them in a style in which they're capable of retaining the information? So while I'm out on Justin Fields, and I don't think this is going to work out with Justin Fields having a resurgence in his career and becoming what people believe that he will become coming out of college, I do think it's a help. I think Justin Fields can play in this league. I don't think Justin Fields is the premium franchise quarterback that those that thought he was. But I do think it's a win-win for Pittsburgh. They signed Justin Fields and they signed Russell Wilson. Both of those guys I think is an upgrade from Kenny Pickett and what they had. So that gives them a little bit of an advantage there. I think Russ has a little bit left in the tank. He's going to play behind a good running game. He's going to play behind a good defense. So he won't have to be dangerous. He can just kind of be Russy. You know what I mean? I have a love and an admiration for Mike Tomlin as a coach. I think he's a leader of men. I think he can coach his tail off. And I think it will be good for Justin Fields to be around him. I don't think it'll be enough to turn Justin Fields' career around. I think Justin Fields is finding his way. He's finding his way on the Jameis Winston, Tyrod Taylor type trajectory, where you go and you be a backup in the National Football League for the next 5 to 8 years. Not a bad gig. Not a bad gig. But I don't foresee the franchise quarterback getting another opportunity to go and lead a team. Because you got to remember, there's a bunch of young quarterbacks coming in this year that they're going to try to develop, and there's more coming every single year. And so while your opportunities will get less and less, those will get more and more. And you'll get a chance to have a veteran leadership, and you'll have coaches that you've been around that take other positions, other jobs. I think that'll help you keep you employed in the league. But I don't believe that Justin Fields is on the path to get himself back to being the franchise quarterback that most thought he was coming out of college. And again, this is not a shot at Justin Fields, the man. This is as a player. I just don't. I don't see it. I see flashes. You can't be inconsistent in this league. Inconsistency in this league makes you a backup. It's can you come in and give me a game or two, but you can't give me a season. And that's literally what makes people backups. Good enough to be in this league, too inconsistent to be a starter. And I think that's where Justin Fields is at. Well, I think the Bears screwed themselves. And this is why bad franchises stay bad for a long time. Because of management. Because if I'm the Chicago Bears, you knew. I'm not saying that you had to 100% know, but you had to have a large portion of your mind made up on which way you were moving going forward. At the end of the season, you knew where you were drafting at. You knew where your draft pick was going to be at. You knew the cards that you held. And what you did, Chicago, you went to the poker table and you tried to bluff folks. And you tried to bluff and you tried to bluff. And boy, what do they call it in poker when they turn the cards over? What do they call it, man? The turn? What do they call it, T? When they turn the cards over in poker? The flip? And boy, when they turn those cards over and you realize that you were no longer in control, you screwed yourself. Because if you were going to turn Justin Fields into first round picks or high draft picks, you should have dealt them in January. When the market was still open for teams that were looking to fill the quarterback position. But you let guys get traded, you let guys get signed, you let teams solidify their future and where they were at with starting quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks, and you let guys move amongst the draft picks to position themselves to go and get a draft pick when you knew good and darn well that you were going to take quarterback number 1 overall. You knew that. We knew it. You knew it. And you waited. And the market dried up on you. And when the market dried up, you tried to play hardball, and they said, we ain't giving you nothing for that young man. Keep him. Keep him. We figured out the rest of this. The pieces would be already beginning to move. You were late moving the chess pieces. You playing checkers, everybody else playing chess. You screwed yourself. And now you got imitation meat from Subway sandwich for Justin Fields. You screwed yourself. You played a game that you aren't good at playing at, and it backfired on you. When Justin Fields had a little bit of a buzz, and he had a little bit of an opportunity maybe to kind of fetch some decent draft picks, you screwed yourself. So now you got to deal with what you got to deal with and, usher in the Caleb Williams era in Chicago. Oh, boy. Let's move right on to the NBA. And I think the only thing that we can talk about in the NBA right now is the Kyrie Irving shot. Like, I love football. I do. Changed my life. It ain't my first love, though. Basketball, my first love. And when I watched that Kyrie shot, the left-handed floater hook shot that he hit over Joker from the free throw line to win the game. Like, I remember I just tweeted out, oh my God, like, wow, incredible. Like, I couldn't put together a full sentence to describe what I just saw and what I felt. And then I got to thinking to myself, because we all do this, was there a shot, a buzzer beater, not a shot, a buzzer beater, meaning that the game ended on that shot. The opposing team did not have a shot to retaliate. And I started to think to myself, was there a shot? And I want your feedback. Please Jump into the comments. Mr. Fourth and Long on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. Leave comments on YouTube. Let me know. Is there a better buzzer beater shot? This barbershop talk. Take this to the barbershop. You want to get a cut this week? Take this to the barbershop. In your being on this earth, has there been a better buzzer beater shot than the one that you saw Kyrie Irving make? And as my mind began to think, the first thing that came to my mind, and really the only one that came to my mind, was the Derek Fisher .4, right? Against San Antonio with the Lakers, catches it, kind of throws it up, and it goes in and he runs off the court. Tay brought one up. The Michael Jordan, Cleveland, coming across the line against Price. Was it Price or Elo? Elo. It was against Elo. Fade, the double clutch and the fading for the game winner. But you tell me. I want to see your feedback in the comments. And again, take it to the barbershop. Ladies, take it to the hair salon, the nail shop. Did y'all see a better shot? A better buzzer beater? Was it Price? Elo. Yeah. Was there a better butter? I fought that. Was there a better buzzer beater shot in all of the NBA history that you can remember? I know I got some older people that follow this page that you can remember better than that one we saw from Kyrie against the Nuggets to win the game. That was incredible. I had never. And when you look at Kyrie doing it, like, he's thinking left hand the whole time. Like, it wasn't like he was like, well, I'm going to go up with my right and I'll last minute heave it up there. Like, he catches it, looks up, and he's like, oh, I'm going all left hand on this one. It looks like he was like, that's what I was doing. And I agree. Now, this is a barbershop argument that I had. And it was more so it was like Kyrie versus AI, who won one-on-one. I am in total agreement when it comes to Kyrie. Let me say pause before I say this. Pause. But I'm in total agreement when it comes to Kyrie having the best layup package of all time. Kyrie gets to the basket and he's able to maneuver, and he can go under and it's the English that he puts on the ball, his layup package is amazing. I don't think there's a better layup package from anybody, guard, big man, whatever, than Kyrie Irving. And for him to drop that shot last night. And did you know that Kyrie Irving, in his illustrious career, buzzer beaters, when I say buzzer beaters, I mean that the game ends on that shot. If there's still time left on the clock, that's not a buzzer beater. Because I know a lot of y'all about to go. Y'all about to go to Cleveland. It's not a buzzer beater. Kyrie Irving only has 2 buzzer beaters in his whole career, counting the left-handed one that we saw. That's crazy, right? And his whole career, buzzer beaters, game's over, and ball's in his hand, shot. 2. I'll let y'all guess who got the most. His airness. Mike has 9. And even 9 seems like a little bit. Like 9 seems like, but you got to remember, like, how often is the game on the line where this next shot wins the game? Because that's what a buzzer beater is. It's if they can still catch it and heave it, you didn't hit a buzzer beater. You hit a last second shot. But a buzzer beater is shot goes up, clock expires, your shot goes in. Game over. Mike has 9. Kyrie only has 2, but he might have the greatest of them all. He might have the greatest buzzer beater of all time. All right, man, I'm going to end on this. It's March, baby. It's March Madness. As someone, let me toot my own horn, as someone who is a 2005 national champion with the North Carolina Tar Heels, go Heels, This is the best time of the year. Like, Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, but this is the most wonderful time of the year. I got to get my bracket up. I got to pull my bracket up. And I know that everybody's locked in to their bracket. This is it. This is it. So I want to just kind of run through and give y'all my Final Four and what I think. Now, I normally don't do brackets because there is a little bit of bias. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to front with y'all. There is a little bit of bias. And I don't think it's an unfair bias. Like, I'm not saying that my squad is year in and year out incapable of winning a national championship. I think if you start doing that, like, it's like, for example, my boy Tay. He's an Aggie fan. So for him to put the Aggies in the Final Four, that bias might be a little bit of a stretch. You feel what I'm saying? It might be a little bit of a. And listen, gig 'em. Shout out to the Aggies. I'm not knocking y'all. Like, I'm not against y'all. Like, 12th man, all that kind of good stuff. Sure, have at it. But if he put y'all in the Final Four, it's an unrealistic bias. Me putting North Carolina in the Final Four isn't an unrealistic bias. That's a lot of you going to have North Carolina in your Final Four. But we can go through all of the I said this long ago when I started watching the Houston team. I said, boy, that's a tournament team. Because here's my belief as someone who was a part of, and maybe my part wasn't a big part, but I was a part of it, a national championship squad. The one thing, because you have to win every time you touch the floor. Like, there is no tomorrow. You win or you go home. And so what plays well in these moments, because you have very little time to scout teams, you have very little time to really put in a game plan. You got to kind of have some fine tuning, but you rely a lot on the veteran leadership. And Kentucky, for an example, has been a team that has had an immense amount of talent. Like, when you just take a minute, you think about the teams that John Calipari has had as Kentucky. You think about, Bam Adebayo, AD, Devin Booker, Malik Monk, John Wall, who's the other guard? De'Aaron Fox, Boogie Cousins, Tyrese Maxey. The list just goes on and on and on. And Cal has put so many guys into the NBA, and not dudes are just like, oh yeah, well, he had to go to the G League and he got drafted. He was an invitee. No, lottery picks for sure, dudes. He got one championship to show for it. Think about that. Think about the team that he's put together. And I think a lot of that is because most of the teams that make a run to the championship, this is just my firm belief, veteran guard leadership. If you got junior, senior guards, a point, a two, I don't care what your big man is. It matters a little bit, but it's going to come down to guard play. It's going to come down who has the most well-rounded veteran guards. When North Carolina lost to Villanova on the last second shot, we had guards, they had guards. UConn last year, when they won the championship, that's what they had. Veteran guards. Just go look. Even your Cinderella squads that come out of nowhere, and they're the 11 seeds, and they're the 13 seeds, and they're the 10 seeds. What do they have in common? Those teams are usually filled with guys who are juniors and seniors. Those teams aren't filled. Those teams, your Florida Gulf Coast of the world, your St. Peter's of the world, your Loyola Chicago's, those teams aren't teams that's coming in here with a bunch of freshman guards and freshman players and sophomores, and they just taking the world by storm. Nope. Those teams, those mid-majors, those teams that got the automatic bids because they won their conferences, those jokers are littered with senior guards, junior guards, guys who have been around the game of basketball collegiately for 3, 4 years, 5 years. Those Gonzaga teams that always run you to the, run you through the gauntlet. Those jokers is filled with juniors and seniors. Filled with juniors and seniors. That is the play. Freshmen don't win in a tournament. Too erratic. Too inexperienced. Don't know how to handle the pressure of playing a team that you had only a couple hours to scout for. Being on the road. Being in an uncomfortable situation of a lose and go home. These games, how do I control this atmosphere that is happening? Because these guys have hit these outrageous amount of shots. So when you look at it, I always look at teams that are going to have veteran leadership. And what I want you guys to do, I want you to send me your brackets. Like I said, at Mr. Fulton Long, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Leave your Final Four in the comment section on the YouTube page. But I look out, coming out of the East. And maybe like and Tay said it earlier, you don't have any Nebraska and Texas A&M. They're 8 versus 9. Maybe that's a Cinderella. No, it's not gonna happen. I know it's not gonna happen. They're gonna lose. They're gonna lose. They're gonna lose the second round. I'm just messing with you. They're gonna. You think they'll beat Nebraska or no? You have to beat Nebraska. Maybe, but they're gonna. But shortly after that, they gotta face Houston. See ya. It could be. It could be. That's the greatest part about the tournament. But I think this year is a year that's. Will there be a Cinderella? Sure, maybe. I think the one team that may see, because even when you look at Purdue's the number 1 seed. Like their toughest. Like in that bracket, in the Midwest bracket, in order for them to get the Final Four, like they faced the winner of Utah State and TCU. Like Gonzaga and Monique State, Kansas, but they're so hurt. Oregon, who just won the Pac-12 tournament. Texas is the number 7 seed. Tennessee's the 2 seed. So like Purdue doesn't have a tough road to toe. So my Final Four that I'm going to go with, because I'm not going to bore you with all of, coming out of the East, I think UConn is a tough team. A tough team. Coming out of the South, give me Houston. And I know this is not like, this is all number 1 seeds. I get it. Like I just feel like these are the best teams in this bracket. Coming out of the West, of course, go Heels. Come on now. That ain't an unrealistic bias. But we'll have our – I'm telling you now, Michigan State is going to be a tough out for North Carolina. Not because Michigan State is this profoundly great team. But Tom Izzo always plays in an absolutely tough schedule. His players are tough. They are ready for these moments. They're going to push North Carolina to the limit. But I still have North Carolina coming out of the West. I got Purdue coming out of the Midwest. So my Final Four is literally 4 number 1s. I know it's crazy. My Final Four is 4 number 1s. I think Houston beats Purdue. Those guards and athleticism I think Houston is going to be. I believe this since earlier in the year. I said that it's going to be a crash course to North Carolina playing Houston in a national championship game in Phoenix, Arizona. The storyline for North Carolina that will eventually run into Arizona, who's the number 2 seed, it's the Caleb Love game, right? Caleb Love transferred from North Carolina to Arizona because he just didn't fit in the system anymore. That's going to be a great storyline. But I have UNC beating UConn and facing Houston in the national championship game, and I find my Tar Heels, go Heels. It's not a bias pick, but it's a bias pick. I find my Tar Heels beating the Cougars of Houston to win a national championship. We redeemed the loss that we had against Kansas. We should have won 2 years ago. We blew that 15-point lead, but I think we go to Phoenix and we get it done. So let me know. Let me know what your brackets look like. Let me know what your Final Four picks are. Let me know what your championship picks are. Let me know who your squad is. If maybe you're down with Tay. Maybe you down with Tay. You're a Gig'em. You're an Aggie, and you're like, let's go. Maybe you down with me, and you're like, I'm a Tar Heel fan. I'm 100% Carolina Blue. Let me know. Let me know how it goes, man. All right, man. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you joining the program. Remember, don't let failure stop you. Don't let failure stop you. Keep it pushing. Keep it going, man. I believe in you. I love you. Remember, Jay Holley always going to love you. All right? Eliminate the contingencies. I'm out.